Chicken Cabanera, Chicken Cabanera, Chicken Cabanera. Welcome to the Week 12 DraftKings. Quarterbacks. Now, how many people do you think have already clicked off this?
I think they're thinking that we didn't edit the video, but this is literally how you're going to intro the show.
I bet you we lost at least 3 people already. Anyhow, we're here to do some DraftKings quarterbacks, obviously cash games and tournaments. I am Russell Clay. You can follow me at Russell J. Clay. And this is Jason. How's it going, Jason?
Good. And before you go and comment in the video section, I'm aware that it's a dark screen for me. I'm in the corner of the house because...
Yeah, he's driving home on a misty day. It's understandable. I know, like, it's fogging up, so you let the windows down. And yeah, I've been here.
I think this is just how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to be an owl in the night giving fantasy advice.
You are kind of like an owl.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that reminds me of Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, I love Tootsie Rolls. Cherry's the best flavor.
Yeah.
Although the grape is very underrated.
There was an owl in those commercials.
Yeah. How many licks does it take to get the center of a Tootsie Roll pop?
Yeah. I've never found out.
I'd never counted.
I've tried.
You've got to be a real weirdo to count.
I've tried. I've failed, though. I never get to the end.
That's my point. Yeah.
It's a great marketing tool. Cash game quarterbacks, Drew Brees against the Rams. You know, obviously in a good situation at home. Love the splits there. Him and Ben Roethlisberger. You know, people, if there's one thing I know, it's people love tweeting about Drew Brees and Ben Roethlisberger home road splits. So with that lead in, what do you got?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you know, I do think the Rams are a top 15 pass defense. Football Outsiders does as well. They have them ranked 12th. But you know what? You look at what Brees did against his Denver secondary a few weeks ago at home, 26 DK points. Is he a must play? You know, as we've seen in the past when he's at home, no, but he's still a safe play. I mean, anyone over 7,000, Drew Brees for me is probably the safest option. You know, he's had a touchdown, at least 2 touchdowns in all but one game this season. That was on the road against the Giants. That game was just one of the weirdest DFS games I've ever seen. A healthy, team total of 27, possibly no Mark Ingram. I do think, with the rush defense being better than the pass defense, I think Brees just goes and lights it up for 303 touchdowns. And you got a lot of options you can pair up with him. I mean,
yeah. So I was gonna ask you that. Really put you on the spot here. If you had to choose, like Marquez Colston or Lance Moore. I know he splits it out, but
well, what year did we just transfer back from?
Huh?
What year did we go back to? We just hopped into a time machine
I was gonna make a joke and I just couldn't get it out without laughing. So we're just gonna move on. I will say though, who do you like to stack the most with him?
I like Cooks this week. I also think it's a sneaky Willie Snead week though.
Oh, Willie Snead, of course. There you go. Russell Wilson, great first name, against the Buccaneers.
Okay.
Really turning it on here. What are you looking at?
6,700, reasonable price, 3 straight games over 25 DK points, 8 total touchdowns. If you want to take away the fluky receiving touchdown, then make it 7. If you want to be a fun killer, you can do that. But I would say he's 100% again. I mean, with the way he's been playing of late. And I think overall this is a solid matchup for him against Tampa. Mediocre pass defense. They allow the 5th most DK points to opposing QBs, right on 21. They're allowing 12.3 yards per completion. I think there's a lot of big play upside here this week for Seattle. I know they got Thomas Rawls back. He's a guy who could see 15 to 20 carries, but I think there's going to be enough to go around with the Seattle offense that's really clicking. I think we're going to see a repeat. I think we already really have of last year's second half stretch where if you basically didn't play Seattle, you were losing. And I think the pricing is really nice for guys that you can pair up. I mean, Baldwin 6,400, Graham 53. I mean, those are 2 really, those are the targets that you want to pair Wilson up with, and it's cheap.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, there's no this isn't subtle. Russell Wilson's great value. He's turned it on. He's tremendous talent. That ankle's healthy now, and I think we should just fire away with him. pretty much regardless of matchup until they make him 7,500, you know?
That's the thing. I mean, if they're going to keep pricing him under 7K, I'm going to keep using him.
Mm-hmm. GPP moving into Cam Newton at 6,800. When was last time he was this cheap, you know?
I mean, comparing to last year, I mean, he was like 78, 7,900. Like he was up
Mhm.
there. And this is like a swerve off of Russell Wilson because obviously, $100 more, Russell Wilson's been very steady over the last few weeks. Cam Newton hasn't. Cam Newton's played some rough defenses, Kansas City, at LA, Arizona. So, I mean, you can give him the benefit of the doubt there a little bit. But now he gets a matchup against the Raiders on the road. I am still a little bit worried. I don't think he's a safe play, but I do think the rushing upside's there. If he can get things going with this receiving core that's been very I can't figure it out. I mean, in terms of who's the number one, I don't think we can call Kelvin Benjamin a number one right now. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but
Yeah,
this
that's a
guy's
hot
playing.
take.
He's playing like 60 to 70% of the snaps. Like he's not getting a great targets on a week to week basis. I just don't know. I don't know what's up with this offense, and I think that's where the risk is. But in terms of a matchup, it's there. I mean,
I think the scale of our expectations of him was just off. I mean, he's still on pace for 900, 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like that's a good year. It's just not what we kind of expected. But yeah, I mean, Devin Funchess certainly getting involved. Ted Ginn certainly getting involved. Not something you love to see if you're trying to stack Cam Newton for sure. But is this the week we go with Greg Olsen and it hits big?
that's what I'm looking at. In terms of snaps, Greg Olson's the most consistent because he's playing basically 100% of the snaps each week. And you can definitely rely on that. And, we'll talk about tight ends tomorrow and we'll talk about Greg Olson. So I do like him, and I do think it's a reasonable pairing. I think this is a matchup where there's a lot of upside. Both these defenses are, we'll talk about Derek Carr next, but, both these defenses are fairly similar in terms of giving up points.
Absolutely. Next one up here, Derek Carr, switching to that game again, just flopping to the other side. So I wonder, they kind of toppled the Broncos, beat up on a conference, foe that they would be competing with. Is there any chance this is a letdown game?
It feels that way, especially coming off of a short week in Mexico.
But they've been surprising us all year. So I pose that question, but at some point and at 6,100, we do have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm just like, I don't know.
That I mean, this game could be a letdown.
Yeah.
It very well could be. I mean, I get that feeling. I feel like this week isn't really that appealing anyway. But I mean, both these defenses exactly the same, allowing 20.5 DK points
Mhm.
to opposing QBs. So I think the back and forth, both teams are in the top half in opposing pass attempts allowed. So there could be some back and forth affair here that I do like, and I do like the stack of using Olsen Newton, but also a Cooper on the other side, or using Olsen with a Cooper Carr stack. You can go that route, and I think Carr's fairly consistent. He's had a couple of down games, but I think those were more matchup based. And those were more ones where Latavius Murray scored 3 red zone touchdowns or scored
Mhm.
2, or it was a lot of weirdness to it where, Derek Carr usually is going to hover around 300 yards and 2 touchdowns as a pretty, safe floor. So I do like the upside. I think it's there. We've seen 6 of 11 games over 20 DK points. I like the stacking opportunity. If you're attacking this defense, it's certainly through the air. I do like the run defense, even though, Luke Kuechly is going to be out. I still think the secondary is one that you just really fire away against.
Yeah, so the Panthers were a pass funnel pretty much most of the season. I'll be interested to see if Luke Kuechly being out kind of shifts the Raiders' game plan. It'll be really interesting to watch how that first quarter goes because I think that'll be big in defining what that game looks like. Because if they're if they're thinking they can go at the run, this might be a slower paced game than we think. But yeah, I mean, we've seen Amari Cooper. That guy is a phenomenal talent. I'm not worried about matchups there, good or bad. He's going to get his, so we certainly like that. And yeah, Crabtree, I mean, falling off a little bit, but Derek Carr pretty efficient with who he goes to, in the passing game.
Yeah, definitely.
Kaepernick versus the Dolphins, 5,700. we got to take him seriously at this point, right?
We do, and this is a weird week because usually I find it fairly easy on DraftKings to just find a value quarterback under 5,500, and I didn't this week. Dalton's there, but you don't really like that. And I think this week, obviously, with 8 quarterbacks off the board because of Thanksgiving, because of the Monday night game not being included in the main slate, it dries it up a little bit. So I like Colin Kaepernick. I do think my only one concern here is Miami. There's a possibility that they do dominate the time of possession, and they just literally
Donkey Kong Sue.
they literally run it down, San Francisco's throw Jaya and just have a field day on the ground. And we don't see a lot of opportunity for San Francisco. So there is that possibility, but I think given the rushing potential, I mean, he's averaging over 4 points per game just solely off rushing yards alone. 5,700, obviously he's been above 15 DK points in every start. It may not seem like a lot, but for a guy who's right around 5,500, that's certainly reasonable. Touchdown in each game. Dolphins have allowed the 9th most rushing yards to opposing QBs. One thing to note, for what it's worth. So I do think if you want to roll a naked Kaepernick and stack some other positions, I'm okay with doing that in a tournament.
Well, yeah, and you kind of hit on this, but 2 passing touchdowns in 2 of the 3 games, in 2 of his last 3, and then the one game where he only had 1 passing touchdown, he had a rushing touchdown. So he's going to get you that 3 to 5 points from rushing yards per game. Has that chance at a rushing touchdown for sure. 3 games over 50 rushing yards, so there's a lot of upside here. And against this Dolphins team that has been less than elite, even on this win streak. So, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Good takes, Jason.
Thank you. I try.
As always, we're gonna leave us off. Do you have one last statement you want to make before we head out?
Yeah, I do. Mashed potatoes is the greatest side of Thanksgiving sides.
Trash. Wrong take.
Well, it's no.
Hold on. Can I get a little stuffing on the side with my mashed potatoes?
Certainly. But I mean, the thing is,
Okay.
I mean, you dip the turkey in the mashed potatoes with the gravy, and you just
yes.
I mean, that's the variety the mashed potatoes gives you. It's that dipping ability to
You're
mash
not
it
wrong.
together.
And
When am
I don't know, you gotta add gravy to the mix.
Yeah, you have to.
And you're looking like a pretty good meal once you get that rocking. I love stuffing, but yeah, no, you're right. You got to give it to mashed potatoes at the end of the day. That's the base. That's where you grow
it's
from.
the nucleus of the dinner.
Yeah, it is. Anyhow, thanks for tuning in. If you like the videos, give us a like and subscribe. If you want to check out Jason's article, head over to dailyfantasycafe.com. If you want to discuss my face or Jason's face or
no one can see mine.
Or the fog lit you got the headless horseman behind you coming to get you right now. Anyhow, we will talk to you next week. Thanks for tuning in and good luck.